Hey everybody, Swab here. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Pulp Invasion. It is designed by Todd Sanders, and it is going to be published by AV Studio Games. It is currently crowdfunded, and the designer and publisher has been kind enough, along with Tabletopia, to put a digital implementation out for us to take a look at and try out. So today I thought I would do that. I originally was attracted to this game because of the gorgeous pulp art, and it's kind of a fun kind of solo game to kind of play, to kind of relax. I should say, though it is not an easy game, the win rate, my understanding is that it's intentionally low. I hope that's the case, otherwise I'm just very, very bad at it. But I'm going to show you how it plays out. The idea is that basically we are a space captain. We've been hired by the Intergalactic Council. They have a concern that the cosmic hegemony of aliens, they have been building super weapons in order to attack the Intergalactic Confederacy, I guess would be the right word. I'm sure the exact fluff is in the rulebook. But they've hired us because of our skills and expertise to sneakily invade the cosmic hegemony's sector of space and slowly search out different planets looking for the super weapons. We win the game if we are able to find in the easy mode anyway 4 super weapons. We would lose the game if we can't find them before we run out of places to search, or we also lose if we burn through our abilities too quickly. And our ability track is right here. There's a combat ability track, science, and diplomacy. If any 2 of these tracks go down to 0, we would also lose. Quickly looking at this here, this is number 1, 1 to 10, 11 to 20. So again, this is diplomacy sitting on 11, this is sitting on 11, and this is sitting on 18. I've chosen that because Atomica 9, our captain, that's her stats. We also get a choice of taking any 2 of these 3 dice choices. So I've chose these 2 crew dice. This crew die really helps deal with combat. It's our weapon specialist die. It does other things, but it's primarily useful for combat checks. And the engineering die, or the science die, which is primarily useful for science. I chose not to use the artificial intelligence die, which is our third option. It does some cool things, allowing us to pull the engineering die to use once in a while, or pull the diplomacy die to use once in a while. But try to keep things simpler for me. I've only played 3 games right now, so maybe my 4th game. This will be a little bit easier for me to keep track of. The game's not complex, but I did find it took me a while to digest what's going on in the rulebook, and that's part of the reason I made this video, is to kind of see the game in action and maybe take that pairing of what's in the rulebook with this visual playthrough to kind of get a good grasp of the game. And once you start playing through, as I say, it's quite simple. It's just the beginning. For me personally, anyway, reading through the rulebook, I needed a little bit more time with it than I kind of expected based on the size of the rulebook, and so putting this out here will hopefully help clear up everything there. It is a prototype. Things are going to change. Things might not look exactly the same as this. Card text will be a little bit different. I know there's some small little errors you might see in card text, and they're doing a great job fixing all that, to my knowledge. All right, so we know what we're doing. We're looking for super weapons. We are exploring planets, and we are trying to get through the cosmic hegemony's sector of space intact. This is a bag building game. Inside this bag are different colored cubes, and we're going to draw these many times. We're going to draw them to do certain kinds of checks. We are going to draw them as well. So in negative ways, we're going to be losing ability points because of checks. We're also going to be drawing them to gain ability points. We're going to be drawing them at the end of every round to also find super weapons. So the game is mostly set up. I need to finalize the bag here. It's got quite a few tokens in it. It's got 16 right now. It's got 4 black, 4 red, 4 blue, 4 green. These ones, half the time we're excited to see. Black we're almost never excited to see because they're going to boost one of the cosmic hegemony aliens as we go through. Because we're playing on an easy mode, we are looking for 4 of these yellow tokens. So every time we draw out of the bag during a planet search phase, we're going to be looking for those yellow or gold tokens represent super weapons. There's also four false lead tokens that are going to go in here as well, and they represent places where we've heard rumors of a super weapon, and we go and we search and we find out, no, it's nothing. It's really just a bag clogger. It's not exciting for us at all. So we have got the bag set up. Captain has got their crew abilities all ready to go, and we got our crew dice ready. We are going to start facing off in or invading the Ka sector of space, one of the three races that make up the cosmic hegemony. Their ability is that when we're in their region of space, they're going to boost guard force level encounters by adding an extra combat strength to them. But before we have to worry about any encounter, we got to find out where we're going to go to. And these are the 3 planet choices that we have to start with. We're going to pick one of them. We're going to go there. Then we're going to come back and pick one of the 2 remaining. And then finally, we're going to have to go to the 3rd one. Once all 3 of these are empty, we'll get 3 new places to choose to go and visit. Tannis Prime is a good card for later once we find a super weapon. So I'm not going to pick that place yet. This one requires us to have these two little microchips or silicon chips in order to use its ability. We won't have those in the first round. I'll show you how to earn those once we find some. So the only one that really makes any sense to me right now is Phrase Edge. And this is going to change slightly the planetary search rules. I'll explain it once we get there, but first we have to fight through some encounters before we get there. So we're going to zoom out. We're going to pick our planet, place it there, and then we are going to seed the encounter line. So we've landed on this planet, and there's going to be 4 things we have to deal with before we can search the planet for the super weapon. All right. There's a hostile agent, an autonomous drone, a Guard Force 1 patrol, and a Guard Force 4 infiltrator. These Guard Forces, remember, are going to get a boost from the cosmic hegemony that we're area of space are in. They're going to get a +1 to combat. But fortunately, we have to get to there first. We always start on this way and we move our way across. Things we're looking for, these planet symbols at the bottom of cards, we want to, whenever we can, find those are going to help us draw more cubes out of the bag during the search, helping us try to find those yellow or gold cubes to find those super weapons. We also love seeing these little symbols down here. So there's a key. The other kind you'll see is going to be a little silicone microchip kind of thing or circuitry. And we are going to see those hopefully later. They'll help us out through the game. So let's take a look at what we have here. On a card, it'll tell you, you'll have some ability text depending on the card, depending what they do. Some of them may happen automatically. Some might happen if you choose to evade, such as the autonomous drone. If we choose to evade it, we'll be able to reroll some dice. And some of them have an encounter phase. This one here, when encountered, which means as soon as we get to that space, we have to do whatever it tells us to do. There's no way to avoid it. And then here it's going to tell us a couple things. This first thing that we're going to care about is looking at these cubes. That's telling us what cubes we're going to add to the bag right now. So we're going to add a blue, 2 red, and a green. So a blue, 2 red, and a green is added to the bag. Okay. The next thing we're going to worry about is what is it going to do for us to engage with these cards. We have a choice of either engaging with them, which means dealing with them head on through some kind of test, or evading them, which means we kind of avoid them, but we still have to pay to evade. Nothing is free in this game. Right here, you'll see the number in gray. You got a 4 in this card. And that's going to tell us the strength of the test we have to pass if we choose to engage with the card. The kind of test we're going to have to do with our ability cubes is on the card to the right of it. So it's this card. In order to engage with it and defeat it, or get through it to the next card, we're going to be doing a combat 4, or 4 combat. This one's going to be a 4 diplomacy. This is going to be a 2 science. It has the guard force icon, so because of the Ka, it's actually going to be 2 science plus a 1 combat. And it's going to be a 3, and we're going to look all the way back around, wrap around, a 3 science, plus again an extra 1 combat because we're in the Ka zone in space, or the Ka sector. So how do you defeat these? Well, if we choose to engage with this enemy, which just means to work through it, keeping it up, we are going to have to do 4 of a combat, and that just means taking our cube and moving it down 4 spaces. Of course, keeping in mind that if we ever get down to 0 on 2 of these tracks, we're in trouble. Combat's our strongest, and this is the only combat one we actually have to deal with. So this probably was one that makes the most sense for us to face. So we are going to do that. Oh, there's some extra flavor text. There are some extra instructions though. This hostile agent is going to switch its engaged strength icon to whichever ability you are weakest in. Well, so it's not actually going to be a combat. It is going to be either a science or a diplomacy. Those two are both tied for 11, so we could pick which one we want to do. Science or diplomacy? I think I'm going to pick a science because I think we're going to use a crew dice right now to help us out. So this is going to be a 4 of science because we picked science because it's our weakest. And we are going to engage with it. To engage with it, normally we would have to move our cube down 4 spaces because that's what's required. However, we are going to use a crew die. A crew die, these dice aren't rolled. Instead, they're just a way to track what's going on. This die here allows us to lower the cost of a science check by 2. And I've also got to take a look here in the rule book to read the other die face here. So gain 2 or plus 2 to enemy strength against the science enemy engaged strength, and upgrade any captain system die 2 sides. Well, that would be great if we had system dice, but we are only using crew dice. We're using the green engineering dice and the red weapon specialist dice. These dice are the systems dice, the orangey yellow and the magenta. So we are going to do that. We're just going to roll it down 1 space. You can see it's gone from 6 to a 5, so it just tells us what die face we're on. And that just minimized 2, so we now only have to do 2, 1, 2 of our science ability to defeat the hostile agent. So we must have found some kind of scientific way or some invention that managed to knock out this hostile agent or get rid of them somehow. Alright, so this one has been faced and dealt with. We're going to move on to the next card in the encounter line. And this has got a 4 strength diplomacy. If we chose to evade this card instead, we do get the extra ability. Here you can take a look at that. If you evade during this encounter, you may reroll a captain's system die. Again, we don't have any system dice, so that ability is useless to us. I don't want to spend 4 diplomacy. We are already low on diplomacy, though of course not as low as science. I would rather just try to evade this card. How an evading works then instead. If you evade a card, you don't get any of those bonus planet icons or key or silicone microchip icons. However, this card has none, so it's not a big deal sneaking past it. So we are going to evade. Evading, you spend 1 of your ability, your choice, so I can use combat, and then you draw 2 tokens out of the bag. If it's any of these 3 colors, then we have to, again, drop our ability score by 1 on each of those tracks. If it's a black or a gold, it just goes back in the bag, same with a white. So let's see what we get. Gold and a black. Neither of those. So they go back in the bag, and when I say go back in the bag, we still have to draw until we find 2 of these colored cubes. So they go back in, and, well, don't need those 2 either. We have to put those back in and draw again. Red, and this goes back in. That goes back in. There we go. Okay. So to evade this autonomous, what's it called? Autonomous drone, we spent a combat ability to perform the evasion, and we're going to spend 1 more combat ability and a diplomacy to do it. These cubes don't go back into the bag. They now go back in the general supply. We've made our bag a little bit lighter, which hopefully will help us find those gold cubes. Really, I'd love to pull out some of these and get rid of them, but to do that, it's going to be a little tricky. We'll see if we can get that lucky. So we've evaded the autonomous drone. Because we evaded it, we just turn it outside to remind us that we did that. Because depending what icons it has on it, we may have to remember that. In this case, it's not a big deal. All right, guard force patrol. If encountered in a Ka hegemony sector, place an additional black cube in the bag. I think that's a black cube from the general supply if able. When it says when encountered, that just means as soon as we get to that card, we have to do whatever it says for an encountered effect. So we can't avoid this. We are in that sector because we're right here with the Ka searching this deck of cards. So we have to add a black cube to the bag, which is the worst thing to have to do, but it's in there. We have to do it. The card tells us to. We're going to. Now, it has 2 of science as a check we have to do against it, plus because we're in the Ka district and it is a guard force card, we have to add +1 combat to it as well. So 2 science and a combat. We could, we can't already use our die, we can only use it once per encounter line, so unless they change that rule, there's discussion. The designer Todd Sanders is saying that maybe he's going to allow people to use it more often. He's kind of chose to use it once per encounter line simply because it's a good limiting resource. It's something that really forces you to choose when the best time to use it is, but he may change that. But at this point, to my knowledge, it is you can use a die once, pick one of the die, and you can use it once per encounter line. So that may change or may be completely wrong in my understanding of the rule, but that's how I see it. So we are going to lower our science by 2 to engage this guard force patrol, and we are going to lower our combat by 1. And you can see we're already getting low on science. It's already stressing me out a little bit, but that's the name of the game. That's why they pay these space captains the big bucks. And because we've done that, we have now engaged with it, moved past it, we've completed dealing with that patrol, and on to the infiltrator. The infiltrator is going to have a power 3, and we're going to look back at, you cycle back to the beginning, it's going to be a 3 science, plus of course a +1 combat. Now, here's a tricky thing. We would very much like to engage this card because it has a planet icon and has a key. However, it's going to cost 3 ability, +1 for combat, plus if we engage it, we're going to draw 3 cubes from the bag, and each red cube in there is going to add +1 combat to its strength. The only benefit to doing this is that when we draw those 3 cubes, we can put one of those cubes back into the general supply, and only 2 of those cubes have to go back in the bag. If we're lucky, we could draw black or a gray, and we could put those back into the supply, and that will really help us kind of weed those really tough, challenging cubes out that we don't want those 2 cubes in the bag ever. So that's appealing. But if we draw a red, and there's still a couple red in here, there's probably 5 red, be my guess, in there right now. If we draw a red, it's going to be boosted again. It's already going to cost us 3 or 4 abilities, and ability, I don't know, 4 on the ability tracks, however we split it, plus potentially more. And all we're going to get out of it is maybe we'll clear the bag, and of course we'll keep this key. And this key is helpful because later in the game there might be times where we can spend these keys in order to help us search the bag more or do some other abilities. So that's a big question, is do we engage it or do we flee? I'm going to engage it. This might be foolish. This might be a very suboptimal choice. This may lead us down a very depressing dark hole. We're going to engage it. So it's going to be 3 science +1 because we're in the Ka hegemony. Plus we need to draw 3 out of the bag. Let's hope that none of them are red. None of them are red. I love it. So no extra strength. One of these goes back to the general supply. We're going to put the blue token in there, and the rest go back in the bag. You would not want to take this out and put in the general supply, because it means you would never be able to find that 4th super weapon, and we would never be able to win the game. So never ever take those out. So 3 science, +1 combat. 1, 2, 3. Oh boy. Did I count that right? Is that here or here? I don't remember. To be nice to myself, I'm going to back it up 1. I think I'm overshot. I think I was sitting here. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, I don't know. I'm sure people are yelling at the screens right now that I made a giant mistake. I'm sorry if I did. This game's hard enough. It's going to punish me anyway. And we have faced the Guard Force Infiltrator. We've gotten through the entire encounter line. We've either engaged or evaded all the cards. And now we get to search the planet. Normally, we count how many planet icons there are that we're engaged with, so not evaded, and that's how many cubes we draw out of the bag. However, because of this planet we're on, because there are 2 planet symbols, we get to draw 3 cubes from the bag. So this changes the search rules. All right, let's go and pull 3 cubes. 1, 2, 3. Wow. First turn, we find a super weapon. I love it. So what happens here is all 3 of these cards are going to get dealt with and put in their respective spots, and I'll show you what's going to go on. So the first thing, we pulled a black cube. Pulling a black cube puts it to the Quietus. It's going to help boost the strength of the Quietus once we get there. We don't really want black cubes on here, but we have to. We're not allowed to change our mind. This red cube goes back to the supply, and because we drew a red cube during our search, it actually increases our combat by 1. And this gold cube means we have found a super weapon. So, first planet we went to, we found a super weapon. And let's see what the super weapon is. Ooh, the Lost Race technology. This super weapon, we already know how it works. Sometimes they have requirements of what we have to do in order to make this technology work for us. You don't have to make technology work, this weapon works, to win the game. You just have to find them, but they all have game benefits. So this Lost Race technology has a benefit for us right off the bat. You can spend 2 ability points of your choice, so any 2 from here, and then you can exchange 2 cubes in the bag for any 2 cubes of your choice. So take 2 cubes out of the bag, put 2 different cubes into the bag, and that would allow us to take out those false leads. Perfect. It's the only way to get rid of false leads. Like false leads always go back into the bag when they're drawn. This is the only time we're going to kind of break that rule. I think maybe the only time. There might be more. This is a great thing to find. So we now can use that whenever we would like. I believe once per turn, obviously. Let's place that cube there to say we have discovered it. We may use this. We probably will have to use this. We just have to gauge when we have enough ability points to spend to do it, and it's a good way to kind of take out the garbage out of the deck, or out of the bag rather, to get more of those super weapons. So that's the first round done. We now go through the row. We take any cards into our hand that have an icon we can keep, such as this key, and the rest just get discarded. Let's make a pile, hopefully. Yep. Good. The planet, we have searched it, we found a super weapon, we leave that planet, and it's now time to pick a new planet. Alright. So, again, this one's not super useful right now. I'm still going to keep it because I'm hoping it will become useful next turn if we find another super weapon, and happen to find a silicone microchip symbol. You can see that little symbol there, the little black and white symbol. This card, we won't be able to use its power, but we are going to we have to go there. We have to go to one of the two places, so that's where we'll go. And now we need to find out what we find on this planet. Oh, a hegemony enemy, the Corpus of Yun, the Disputed Zone, and some guard force. So guard forces, you remember, get boosted by the hegemony sector we're in. Once you place out your encounter line, first thing you do is you need to add cubes to the bag. We're going to add 2 red, 2 green, and a blue. So 2 red, 2 green, and a blue. The next thing you're going to do is take a look into the row, and this didn't come up last time, so I'm going to talk about it, but this time it did. There is a location card. You can see it's got that little space station symbol and its green thing. And that means that we didn't just go to this Meridian 7 planet, we actually landed in a disputed zone on this planet. And the location is now going to impact the game. We're going to look at which of the 3 hegemonies we're currently in. We're in the Ka hegemony right here, and it has the red combat symbol because they're combat focused. And this rule on this location is going to now affect us until we find a new location. Locations stay on the board in play until a new location comes up. So you're not going to go to a new planet, the location is going to stay the same. So we are here in this combat zone. So spend 1 ability point and remove any encounter card adjacent to any base, B-A-I-S, in the encounter line. Any planet icon is still counted. So if any of these had that name base, we could use that ability. None of them do, so we don't have to worry about it. It's just kind of there, it exists. It's nice because it means you have less encounters to deal with, and it puts some cubes in the bag, which hopefully will be useful cubes and not just choking our bag or plugging your bag full of garbage. Now it's time to jump into the encounter. First off, Hegemony Century. If we engage him, we're going to have to draw 3 cubes from the bag, and for each of those blue science or diplomacy cubes, you're going to add extra strength to this guy. He's fairly inexpensive at 2. He's going to be a 2 diplomacy, and we're at 10. I think we can afford to face him. We don't really get much out of him, but the cost of us evading him is going to be at least 3 cubes, or at least 3 ability. So let's take the gamble. If engaging, draw 3 cubes in the bag. Looking for blue ones, not really. You're going to hopefully avoid blue ones. So, alright, a false lead, a combat, and a diplomacy. So this is bad. This is going to add 1 more power to him. Now we get to put one of these back in, or onto the general supply, and the other go back in the bag. And since there's very few ways to get rid of false leads, this is probably a good time to get rid of it. Oops. Alright, so the false lead goes away, and what's it say to do with the rest of them? Place 1 cube from those drawn back in the general supply, and the other cubes back in the bag. Okay. So these 2 go back in the bag, remembering that there's +1. So he has 3 diplomacy we need to do. So 1, 2, 3. And we have engaged with this Hegemony Century, and we move forward. And now we get to a 0-cost card, and there's a reason for that. If the card has that, usually there is something in the text about what that card does. So let's take a look at the Corpus of Yun 5. For each diplomacy ability point you spend, draw a card off this Cosmic Hegemony Aliens encounter deck. Place these cards in any order, back either on top or the bottom of the Cosmic Hegemony Aliens draw deck. If we had a lot of diplomacy ability points, which we have only 7, we could spend those, take a look what's coming next, and maybe like sort them and put them down for later to deal with later, or kind of stagger them so at least some really good cards don't go together. I'm just going to skip it. I don't really want to spend those tokens. But we still engage with it because we just chose to spend 0 ability points. So it'll still count as our planet later. Remember, if you evade something, these planet points we don't look at, and then we draw less cubes out of the bag when we're looking for the super weapons during the planet search phase. So we did engage with it, we just engaged it with 0 diplomacy ability points. And last, the Guard Force 3 Protector. Okay. He has a 2 combat. Because we look back around, we loop back around to the card. Plus, because we're in the Ka hegemony sector, they get +1 for all the Guard Force levels. So he is actually 3 combat to deal with. I do very much want to engage with him though, because at the end of or during the planet phase, we can do this extra flavor tax, which lets us search the bag more, and it's going to gain us this this key, which will be helpful later. So first, do I spend 3 or do I roll my dice down by 3? I'm going to roll my die down by 3 because nothing else I need it for, and we might encounter some more of those autonomous droids, which will let us re-roll dice anyway. So, using this die face, just dropping it down, will add 3 to our combat ability. And as you remember, he only has 3, 2 plus the 1 from the sector we're in. So that's all we had to spend. We don't even have to even touch our actual abilities. We use the die instead to defeat this guy. And that's it. We worked this encounter line. Great job, us. Now we're on to the planet search phase. If there are 3 or more planet icons in this encounter, there are not. Then we would deal with some stuff here. We don't have the silicone to spend on it, so we're not going to worry about it anyway. But we do have this Guard Force Protector. Any keys in your hand, discard during this round's planet search, add an extra cube be drawn per key. Here's a key in our hand, so we're going to discard that now. So that's going to be 1 cube we get to draw. 1 more for here, 1 more for here. So 1, 2, 3. Let's go draw 3 cubes out of this bag. Whoa, I love this. All right. I mean, false lead, it's got to go back in the bag. That's the rule with false leads, unless you have those special cases like we just saw. This black cube's going to pump up the quietus some more. But we've gotten lucky and we have found yet another super weapon. So let's see what our next super weapon might be. It is a force shield. This is one of those places we talked about how you have to understand super weapons to be able to use them. We found it, so that would count for helping us win the game. But if we want to use this super weapon during the game, we're going to have to do this. Understand the super weapon with 3 combat cubes and reorder any cards drawn. And then after you learn about it by putting 3 cubes on here, then you get the ability. Reorder any cards drawn to the encounter line once at the beginning of an encounter phase as you choose. So a nice way to kind of stagger the counters in a way that doesn't kind of really mesh a high score with a ability that you're low in. In order to understand this weapon, spending those 3 combat cubes, that's during the planet search. Whenever you draw cubes out, if we draw any red cubes, we can choose to either spend them to boost our combat up, like we did last round, or we could just place them here instead. And once you get 3 on this card, they'll actually use its power. Oh, I never did use this ability this turn, did I? We should do that, and I feel like you're allowed to do this whenever. So, can I afford to spend 2? Yeah, let's spend 2 combat. So we're going to use this technology card now. Spend 2 ability points, so we spent those 2 combats. And we're going to take 2 cubes in the bag out, and we're going to put 2 cubes of our choice in. And that is a good way to get rid of the false leads. I'm going to take out a false lead and a black one, maybe? So let's see. I'm just going to draw. Yep, there's 1 out. And I'll keep that, keep that, keep that, keep that, keep that. Looking for a false lead. Tempted to get rid of that one instead. There you go. All right, so those two come out, and we got to put 2 in. I mean, can I put those in? I don't know. I better not. We have a lot of combat, so putting these in would help us if we're doing those tests where we have to draw to see for like evading. It's not a big deal if we lose them. Now, it also is going to increase the likelihood that we draw those to boost us. It's also going to increase the chance that we draw them to power our force shield or understand our force shield. So definitely let's put 2 red cubes in, because those will help us either during evade tests or power this if we draw them. So drawing more red cubes is not a bad thing. Okay, we've finished those phases. So this card goes away, this card goes away. Because as a key, we keep this. We leave this planet having another having found another super weapon, and this location sticks around. All right, our last place. See, we're saving this hoping we would have a use for it. This would have been amazing to help us, instead of placing those 3 red cubes out of the bag by slowly drawing them at the end of every planet search. We could have used this card if we happen to be lucky enough to have some silicone chips, right? Discard one of the silicone chip cards during the planet search phase, and then recover any or fully understand any super weapon previously discovered. So that would mean that this would just automatically get understood, and we could automatically start using it. The way it works, though, you don't take cards and place them down into your hand until after the planet search has already happened. So this is not going to fire off this turn for us no matter what, even if there's a bunch of silicone chips here. And this would be one reason that maybe that would have been handy to spend some diplomacy points, ability points to kind of see, because maybe we could have ordered something. No, that wouldn't have worked either. So that's fine. All right, let's see what's on Tanis Prime. A guard force. All right, 2 guard forces, which means that their powers are boosted. Ooh, cryo suspension. This helps us immensely. This is going to be a great card we'll talk about. And hostile agent. This is risky in that we are running the risk of it doubling its power. So instead of just being a 3 strength, it's going to be 4. I'm probably going to try evading this one, to be honest, because I don't know if I'll take the risk. But we'll see when we get there. All right. We're going to put a blue, a red, and a green into the bag. So I said a blue, a red, and a green. If we ever run out of any of these are not infinite, so we just wouldn't add anything. So if we say all the reds were already in here, and it said add another red cube to the bag, we can't. So that would just get ignored entirely. So he's got a 2 power science plus 1 combat. Oh, does this do anything? No. Because of the hegemony. So 2 science. Ooh, I don't like that. 1 combat. We could use our eye for that. We're definitely going to evade this one. So using this die for here to kind of lower that power won't be helpful. I think we'd rather just evade it entirely. So yes, that's what we're going to do. We need to engage this one. We're going to engage it. We are going to do 2 science plus 1 combat. Instead of the 2 science coming off our track, we're going to use our die. All right, and we still have to lose the 1 combat though. This new face, we do 2 of any of the 3 abilities. So this is a nice sweet spot for the die, to be honest. All right, so we've passed that. Cryo suspension time. It's nice, it's a blank space. It's actually a positive thing. Rest and raise any one ability 3 points to its up to its maximum, or any 2 abilities 1 point each. I like just maximizing 1. Let's get 3 points in science. 1, 2, 3. A little more breathing room, feeling a little bit better. I like it. All right, on to the hostile agent Jatari. If we face this and if we draw a black cube, it's going to be 6 diplomacy. Can we do that even? Oh, we could, but it's going to be painful. You can also trade 2 for 1. So if you would rather spend 2 combat points for every 1 diplomacy, for example, you can do that. That's not a great use of it, but desperate times might require that. I really don't want to face this, but I also really don't want to face this. All right, let's evade this one, and let's face this one. It would be nice to engage with them both because getting those planet symbols is pretty important. But if we happen to get 6 diplomacy, that's really going to hurt us. If we happen to draw... Yeah, so if you draw 3 cubes in the bag before you encounter with the hostile agent, if any black cubes are drawn, the engaged strength is doubled. And then you put those cubes back in the bag. Chances of drawing a black. Not that high, really, though. Is it? Most of them are back here. Let's risk it. I really want to search and find that 3rd and 4th super weapon. So we are going to face it. It's going to have a 3 diplomacy. And we're going to draw 3 cubes out of the bag and hope none of them are black. None of them are black. We're okay. I was panicking for nothing. They don't go back in the bag, do they? Place any black and yellow cubes in the bag. Any other cubes go back in the supply. Okay, well, that's fine. Back into the supply with you. That does thin out our bag, so that's kind of nice. And we need to spend our 3 diplomacy. 1, 2, 3. We got 1, 2, 3 kind of left, right? Or 4, so 4 left. Now, on to the guard force. He has a 4 science plus 1. You know what? We really want that key. And I want that search. We're going to do that as well. So 4 science plus 1 combat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. It's probably not a great play. I'm spending a lot of resources on this round. I'm just getting kind of cocky, I think, because I've got these 2. I'm halfway through the super weapons already. I think I'm probably being a little too bold, but hey. So we spent those tokens. That's it, we've got through all of them. We're on to the search planet phase. Remember this card here. Any keys in our hand, I can discard them during the planet search, and I can add 1 extra cube to be drawn per key, and we have 1 in our hand from last time, so we're going to discard that. So that's 1 search, and we have 2 planet symbols, so that's a search of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's not a bad time to draw those. We draw these, and these are going to boost our science ability up 3. 1, 2, 3. Not too shabby, and these all go back into the general supply. Sadly, no yellow cubes. Sadly, no red cubes to help get this guy. I don't think I want to risk this turn, emptying out the bag. Yeah, so let's just move forward. All right. After the planet search, all the encountered and evaded cards go away. We keep the one with the key, and we leave the planet. Goodbye, planet. All right, let's see what new planet choices there might be for us. High Orbit, Moon 6, and Jason's Folly. So each key in your hand discarded during a planet search will allow you to draw one extra cube during your search. Good. Moon 6. Each key in your hand discarded during a planet search will allow you to add +1 to your science ability. Good. Each silicone chip, microchip, or circuit in your hand discarded during a planet search will allow you to remove any black cubes drawn during your search from the game without applying the associated penalty. Well, let's use Jensen's Folly and hope we get a bunch of keys. We only have one. Or do we wait another round? Yes. Let's wait another round. We are going to use Moon 6, I think, because I don't think I necessarily need to use that card. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like at the end of the round. Alright, this is our last time in the Ka sector. And it threw us some big ones. We might actually need to get some more science from this, so we might need this. As your mark guard forces get +1, let's put some cubes in. 3 green, 1 blue. Those 3 green we just took out, going right back in. Okay. Guard Force Infiltrator. If we engage him and we draw red, we're going to boost his strength. He does have a microchip, though, or a circuit chip. He's going to have 4 science, +1 combat. Well, we could use this to knock him down a bit. Yeah, I think we'll face... We definitely want to face them both. Yeah, let's face this guy. So we're going to draw 3 cubes in the bag because we're engaging him. And for each red one, we're going to add another combat ability to him. Let's hope we don't do that. And one of those cubes will go in the supply, and then they're going to go back in the bag. Alright. Let's draw 3. And let's get rid of this one. Put that back in. Put this back in, so that's +1. So he's got 2 combat and 3 science. Well, let's knock this down for the science. This is on 4. 6, 5, 4, down to 3. And down to science. And still also down 1 more science. So 2 combat, sorry, and 1 science, because this took care of 2 of it. And there were 3, so I had to move this down 1, and those 2 combat brought this down 2. Okay, that dealt with. Swarm. Draw. I think we have to do this right off the bat. I don't think this is a choice one. It doesn't say with if encountered, so I'm assuming it just means you have to do it. I feel like it should have the words if engaging, but I don't know. So we're just going to assume it means with it, just as it just happens. So draw 3 cubes in the bag. For each black cube drawn, move an ability point of your choice to a different ability. Okay. Alright, we will do that. So draw 3. Ooh, those are good things. They don't really affect us. We did not draw any black ones, so these all go back into the bag. Hopefully we can draw those same things again later. And 3 more science. I hate to do it, but 1, 2, 3. And now this guy's got 4 combat plus an extra combat because of the sector we're in. Do I want to avoid him? I probably want to avoid one of these 2. Though they both have good things. This is going to benefit us if we get the circuit one. This is going to benefit us if we get the key. I'd rather have the key. So let's avoid this guy. To do that, we're going to drop down 1. We're going to draw 2 cubes, and those abilities will go down 2. Uh-oh. Alright, and these go back into the supply. Bag's getting emptier, 23. I hope our odds of pulling a yellow cube are getting better. I mean, they are, but not by a lot. Alright, so we've avoided him. And we are going to engage the Technomagus. But first we have to draw 3 cubes, and any cube that is green is going to add +1 green. Let's not draw any, right? Perfect. And I think they all go back in the bag. Place one of the cubes in the general supply and the other cubes back in the bag. Well, let's get rid of that false lead. Throw those back in. So he is a 4 combat. So down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is not looking good. We are getting very low on these tracks. We might not be getting too much further. Oops. All right. We dealt with all that. It is now time to go to the planet search. And here we have a debate. I could spend this key to increase our science ability by 1. Or I could save this key for the next round to help us search the bag. We need to boost this up. So we're going to use the Moon 6 ability of discarding the key to increase that up by 1. Hopefully that's enough. And now we'll do our search. There are only 2 planet icons that we engaged with. This planet icon does not count because we evaded it. So we are going to draw 2. 1, 2. That is the worst. That's terrible. All right, this cube goes here. And we boost diplomacy up by 1. We definitely can't afford at all to run this. I'm very nervous about how few ability points we have left. We did not get any combat cubes, so this will not allow us to understand our force shield we found, which I'm sure would be helpful if we could just understand what it did. We keep this silicone chip, circuit chip, we keep this key, and we discard these 2. And we leave this planet. Alright, what planet should we go to next? This will help us search. This will help us with the black cubes. Let's go to high orbit. Alright, so we've now cleared this sector of space, and we are now into the Quietus hegemony sector. Now we have 3 black cubes on this card, and when we have that, it means that each guard force has an encounter on the encounter line gains +1 diplomacy to their engagement strength. And then after we leave the Quietus, all the cubes go back in the bag. So we've got our 3 cubes. That's unfortunate. And if we're lucky enough to leave this space, then all these cubes are going to go back into the bag, filling our bag full of garbage again. Okay, let's see what's in this region of space. First thing we do is we gotta get our cubes. Blue, red, blue, black, green. So 2 blue, a red, a green, and a black. All right, 2 blue, a red, a green, and a black. And if you noticed, there's a new location that's come out. And we are in the Quietus sector, which is the diplomacy. And this gives hostile agents planet icons that do not count. So this hostile agent, that planet icon, it does not count towards our search. So that's unfortunate. Makes me not want to deal with them, I'll tell you that. Alrighty. But at least we only have 3 cards in a row. Don't forget this guard force. He also has the boost of 1 + 1 diplomacy, strength, engage strength. But first, the hostile agent. Facing him would be 4 science, and we wouldn't even get this token for engaging with him. Right now, we couldn't possibly do it. We'd have to burn this die, and we'd be down to 1. So that's not great. I think we're going to try to evade, as expensive as that is. So spend 1 token. Ooh, do I want to spend that token? Do we have to face a lot of blue things? There's a blue thing. It'll be... Yeah, I can't spend blue. Alright, let's spend red? Nope. Green. Oh boy. Alright, we'll spend a green token to try to evade. We're going to draw 2 tokens out. Oh boy. We are getting very low on the track here. Only 1 point left in science, 2 points left in combat, 5 points left in diplomacy. We are getting close to the bitter end, I think. We might not see this one through. Alright, so he's been avoided, or evaded. Now, 2 diplomacy. If we were counting the Arvan hegemony sector, we would have to add another black one to the die. We don't have to worry about that. Alright, so let's do 2. He's 2 diplomacy, plus another diplomacy because of the sector we're in. 3 diplomacy. Well, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. And we have engaged with that patrol and dealt with it. And on to the Technomagus. And this is going to be where it's going to be tricky. He is a 4 science. We only have 1. I don't know if there's a way around that. We'll have to evade him then, because a 4 science means we could burn this for 2 and then that down. Let me think about this for a second. I think the only choice is to try to evade him. Yeah, one of these tracks will definitely end up out entirely, but we won't be out of the game. So let's evade him. Let's see what happens. We're going to use I don't know, we'll use a combat. And we're going to pull 2 cubes out. Yep, and combat's now down to 0. If either of these get down to 0, we lose the game. But we have managed to evade him. Congratulations, us. Okay. Well, for our planet search, we are only going to get 1 token out of the bag. We do have 1 circuit, so we can discard it if we draw a black token and we just get rid of it. Well, let's do our 1 search. A green. If only I'd played things differently. Oh dear. Alright. We keep the circuit chip. We get rid of these 2 cards. We are going to play out the next one. See what happens. My expectation is that we are not making it much further. Jensen's Folly. My folly. Swab's Folly is what we should call it. During the planet search, if we make it that far, we'll be able to draw extra token, which would be nice. Let's fill this row up. See what we're facing. Alright, first add the cubes. We are adding 2 red and 3 blue. And we've gone to a terraformed moon near Jensen's Folly. And we're in the hegemony, in the quietest region. So hegemony sentries get +1 to their engaged strength. Fortunately, there are none of those. Oh boy, this is also an easy card to deal with. We only have 2 difficult cards to deal with, but I think if you've been crunching the numbers in your head already, I think you know that odds are we're not coming out of this one unscathed. This is a 4 diplomacy to be able to get through. If we try to evade it, it's going to cost us 3 ability points, which would be 1, 2, and 3 be out. That'd be the best we could do. If we draw a red one, though, during that draw, we don't have to discard it. Chances are pretty low we're not making it. Yeah, so if we get lucky and we draw red, because it's already at 0, you just ignore red cubes. You don't have to pay using the other resources you have, the other abilities. So, I mean, there's the slimmest of slim chances that we get through this. So let's try evading. We spend a green and we draw 2 tokens. And sorry, folks, but that means this goes to 0 and this goes to 0. We officially have burned out. We are a flaming ball of fire. This autonomous drone caught on to what we're doing and saw we're on our last legs. And at Jensen's Folly, we had our last stand. We only managed to secure 2 super weapons out of the 4, but I don't even know if that matters. I'm sure we've been captured by now. And the Quietists are on to the Intergalactic Council. All right, folks, I hope you like what you saw. I hope that kind of helps see how you play through things. I hope that I clarified and explained as much as I could. As you can see, it's a tough game. We only got through half of what we needed. This is on the easy mode. I can guarantee you I made some terrible choices. If you are better at crunching numbers and weighing out odds and statistics, I think you may have a slightly better go at this than I would. But I feel like everything else about the game really kind of pulls together, and it's an enjoyable game. I feel like the odds of winning this game are good that they're nice and low. It makes you want to come back to it. It feels a lot like Space Hulk, the card game, which an old Fantasy Flight game, sadly out of print, that I quite enjoy playing solo. In terms of like the challenge rate level, the two of them play nothing alike. But in terms of the likelihood of winning, and I like that. I think that kind of makes a solo game enjoyable. I definitely could see how as you play through it, I get better at doing what I'm doing. Anyway, folks, I hope that you like what you saw there. I hope that this was an enjoyable experience watching me play through this. I hope that it kind of clarifies how things go. I hope that I made the rules clear enough as I went through it. And if you're interested in it, I, of course, will leave links in the description, link to the BGG page, as well as a crowdfunding page if you see this in the next little bit and you want to follow through with that. We will talk again soon, and thanks for joining me on this Pulp Invasion adventure. I very much enjoy what Todd Sanders and AV Studio Games is putting together here.